The lake was mirror still that morning, reflecting clouds so perfectly I could barely tell where the water ended and sky began. I stood on my porch with a cup of chamomile tea, watching a great blue heron wade through the shallows near the dock. 43 years. That's how long Robert and I had saved to buy this place. Our little slice of Tennessee heaven, tucked between the Smoky Mountains and Norris Lake. I was still in my bathrobe when I heard tires crunching up the gravel drive. Too early for visitors. Through the pine trees, I saw Sarah's white SUV kicking up dust, moving faster than the winding road usually allowed. My daughter. She never came without calling first. The car door slammed. Sarah marched toward me, her heels clicking on the wooden steps. A leather folder tucked under one arm. Behind her, Derek emerged from the passenger side. Phone already pressed to his ear. My son-in-law. Always on a call. Always important. Mom, we need to talk. Sarah brushed past me into the house without so much as a good morning. Where can we sit? I followed them into my kitchen, the room where Robert and I had shared breakfast for 18 years before the cancer took him. Derek pulled out a chair like he owned the place, spreading papers across my grandmother's oak table. Sarah stood by the window, arms crossed, her expression tight. What's this about? I asked, setting down my tea. My hands were already starting to shake. A mother knows when something's wrong. Derek looked up from his phone long enough to slide a document toward me. Margaret, you know I've been developing the Neuralink device. We've talked about this. I nodded slowly. Derek was always talking about his medical device company. Some kind of implant for Parkinson's patients. He'd been on the verge of FDA approval for the past 3 years. We're at the finish line, he continued, his voice smooth as butter. But we need bridge financing, just $450,000 to get us through the final trials. I stared at the number. $450,000. That was almost exactly what Robert's life insurance had left me. The money I'd been living on, carefully, for the past 2 years. Derek, I don't have that kind of money to invest in. Yes, you do. Sarah turned from the window, her tone sharp. Dad left you plenty. And this isn't just an investment, Mom. This is family. Your father left that money for my future. I said quietly, for medical care. You were a nurse for 40 years, Derek interrupted. You should understand the potential here. Neuralink could help millions of people. We're talking about a company that'll be worth $50 million once we go public. I looked down at the papers. Dense legal language, corporate documents. The words personal guarantee jumped out at me. What exactly are you asking me to sign? Sarah moved behind me, her hand landing heavy on my shoulder. Just investment documents, Mom. Standard stuff. Derek's lawyers drew everything up. And if the company doesn't succeed? Derek's smile didn't reach his eyes. Then we're all in trouble. See, here's the thing, Margaret. We already told the investors you were backing us. They released the funds based on that commitment. If you don't sign by Friday, they'll call the entire loan. We'll lose everything. The house, Sarah's credit, everything. My chest tightened. You told them I'd invest before asking me. We knew you'd say yes, Sarah said. You always help family. I felt something shift inside me, like ice cracking on the lake in early spring. I need time to think about this. Derek stood abruptly, his chair scraping against the floor. There is no time. Margaret, these people aren't patient. They want the paperwork signed and notarized by Friday at 5. That's 3 days. And if I don't? Sarah's voice dropped to something cold. Then you'll be named in the lawsuit. Derek's lawyers looked at everything. If you don't fulfill your verbal commitment, you're liable. I never made a verbal commitment. That's not what Derek's business partner will testify. Sarah gathered the papers, sliding them into a manila envelope. We'll be back Friday morning, 9 o'clock sharp. Have your decision ready, Mom. I really hope you choose family. They left as quickly as they'd come. I stood in my kitchen, listening to the SUV drive away, staring at the envelope they'd left on the table. My tea had gone cold. I picked up my phone and dialed a number I hadn't called in 8 years. When the voice answered, I took a breath. James, it's your mother. I know we haven't spoken since your father's funeral, but I need your help. My son arrived 6 hours later, driving through the night from Atlanta. James stepped out of his sedan, looking exhausted, his lawyer briefcase in one hand. We hadn't parted on good terms. He'd wanted to contest Robert's will, angry that most of the estate went to me, said I'd manipulated his father. We'd screamed at each other in the funeral home parking lot, and I'd told him not to come back until he could apologize. He'd never apologized. But when I called, he came. Mom, he stood on the porch, uncertain. You said it was urgent. I handed him the envelope. Read these. James sat at the kitchen table, the same spot Derek had occupied that morning, and read every page. His expression grew darker with each paragraph. Finally, he looked up. Did you sign anything? Give the money? Make any promises? No. Nothing. He exhaled. Good. Because this is fraud. Mom, these aren't investment documents. This is a personal loan guarantee. If Derek's company fails, you'd be personally liable for $450,000 plus interest. You'd lose this house. My stomach dropped. They said it was standard. Standard for people who want to steal your life savings. James pulled out his laptop. I'm going to make some calls. Don't sign anything. Don't talk to them without me present. That night, James slept in his old bedroom while I lay awake, staring at the ceiling. I kept replaying Sarah's words. I really hope you choose family. When had choosing myself become the same as abandoning family? The next morning, James's phone rang during breakfast. He stepped onto the porch, speaking in low tones. When he came back in, his face was grim. Mom, I need you to tell me something, and I need you to be completely honest. Have you noticed any unusual medical bills, claims under your name that you don't remember? What? No. Why? He set his phone on the table, screen facing me. Because I just got off the phone with an investigator friend. Derek's company, Neuralink Medical, it's been billing Medicare for procedures that never happened, using healthcare provider credentials that match your old nursing license number. The room tilted. That's impossible. I retired 2 years ago. My license is inactive. Inactive doesn't mean inaccessible. James pulled up a government website. Look, someone's been filing claims under your NPI number for the past 18 months. Home healthcare visits, medical equipment, even a surgery consult last month. I stared at the screen. My name. My license number. Services I'd never provided. $127,000 in fraudulent claims. James, I didn't do any of this. I know you didn't, Mom. His voice was gentle. But Derek had access to your information, didn't he? Sarah brought him to your retirement party. He toured your old hospital. You probably mentioned your license number at some point. I remembered. Derek asking about the nursing shortage, about Medicare reimbursement rates, about how the system worked. I'd thought he was being interested in my career. He'd been gathering information. If Medicare finds out, you'll be investigated for healthcare fraud. You could lose everything and face criminal charges. James stood, pacing. Unless we get ahead of this. Within an hour, James had contacted 3 people. A healthcare fraud attorney, a FBI agent who specialized in Medicare fraud, and a forensic accountant. They all said the same thing. Report it now, cooperate fully, and hope the government believes you're a victim, not a perpetrator. The FBI agent, a woman named Special Agent Reeves, arrived the next day. She was younger than I expected, maybe 40, with kind eyes and a voice that had seen too much human ugliness. Mrs. Harper, I'm going to record this conversation. I need you to tell me everything. I did, the investment demand, the documents, the timeline. And then, the hardest part, admitting my daughter might be involved in stealing my identity. Agent Reeves didn't sugarcoat it. If your daughter and son-in-law have been using your credentials for Medicare fraud, they're looking at 10 to 20 years in federal prison. And if they've already named you as an investor in documents filed with the SEC, they're trying to make you the fall guy. What should I do? When they come back Friday morning, I need you to wear a wire. Let them talk. Ask questions. Get them to explain the whole scheme. James gripped my hand. Mom, you don't have to do this. But I did. Because somewhere in the past 15 years, my daughter had stopped seeing me as her mother and started seeing me as a resource. And I'd let her. Every time I'd bailed her out. Every time I'd said yes when I meant no. Every time I'd chosen peace over boundaries. I'll do it, I told Agent Reeves. Friday morning arrived gray and humid, the lake hidden behind fog. Agent Reeves had attached a small device under my cardigan, tested it twice, then positioned herself in an unmarked car down the road. James wanted to stay, but I made him leave. This needed to be just me. At 9 o'clock sharp, the white SUV appeared. Sarah came in carrying coffee like this was a social visit. Derek had his phone out, already texting. They sat at the kitchen table. So, Mom. Sarah smiled, warm and false. Did you come to your senses? I poured myself tea with shaking hands. I have some questions first. Derek sighed, impatient. Margaret, we've been through this. The investment documents mention needing my nursing credentials verified. Why would a medical device company need that? Sarah and Derek exchanged a glance. Quick, nervous, just standard stuff, Derek said. Credibility with investors. And the Medicare billing codes listed in Appendix C? Why would an investment portfolio need those? Derek's jaw tightened. Who've you been talking to? No one. I'm a nurse. I know what Medicare billing codes look like. I kept my voice steady, remembering Agent Reeves's coaching. Keep them talking. I also know my NPI number, which appears in these documents, which I never authorized you to use. Sarah stood. Mom, what are you implying? I'm not implying anything, Sarah. I'm stating facts. Someone's been billing Medicare under my credentials for 18 months. $127,000 in fraudulent claims. And now you're asking me to sign documents that would make me legally liable for your company's debts. Derek's face went red. You've been investigating us? I've been protecting myself. You ungrateful, Sarah's voice rose. After everything we've done for you. Taking care of Dad when he was sick. You visited twice during his hospice care. Calling you every week. To ask for money. Sarah slammed her hand on the table. Fine. You want the truth? Yes. Derek's been using your license information. But it's not fraud. It's survival. The company needed cash flow. Those Medicare claims kept us afloat while we waited for FDA approval. So you committed federal fraud using my identity. We committed creative accounting. Derek snapped. And if you don't sign these papers and take legal responsibility, we're going to tell the FBI that you were in on it from the beginning. That you authorized everything. It'll be our word against yours. The room went silent except for the clock ticking on the wall. Actually, I said quietly, it'll be your words against your recorded confession. Sarah's face went white. What? I pulled my cardigan aside, revealing the wire. I've been cooperating with the FBI Healthcare Fraud Division. Everything you just said is on tape. Derek lunged forward, but the front door burst open. Agent Reeves came through with 3 other agents behind her. Derek Simmons, Sarah Harper Simmons. You're under arrest for healthcare fraud, identity theft, and conspiracy to commit wire fraud, Sarah screamed as they cuffed her. Mom, how could you? I'm your daughter. I stood, legs shaking. And I'm a human being. With rights, with dignity. I'm not an ATM. I'm not a scapegoat. I'm your mother, and you stopped treating me like one the day you decided my value was measured in dollars. Derek shouted something about lawyers. Sarah cried, mascara running down her face, begging me to fix this, to make it go away. I turned to Agent Reeves. Can I leave now? Yes, ma'am. We'll need you to come to the field office next week for a formal statement, but you're free to go. I walked out onto the porch, leaving my daughter and son-in-law to face the consequences of their choices. James was waiting by his car, and when I reached him, I finally let myself cry. The trial took 8 months to reach court. During that time, James moved back home, taking a leave from his firm to help me navigate the legal system. We found our way back to each other slowly. Over morning coffee on the porch. Over shared meals. Over the terrible bonding experience of watching your family implode. The federal prosecutor, a sharp woman named Miss Kwan, laid out the evidence like a surgeon. 14 months of fraudulent Medicare claims, forged documents, email chains showing Sarah and Derek had planned to frame me if caught. Even a recording of Derek laughing about the old nurse being too senile to notice. I testified on the third day. The courtroom smelled like old wood and stale coffee. Sarah sat at the defense table, refusing to look at me. Derek stared straight ahead, jaw clenched. Mrs. Harper, Miss Kwan began gently. Can you describe your relationship with your daughter before this incident? I took a breath. I loved her. I still love her. But somewhere along the way, I stopped being a person to her. I became a solution, a resource. And every time I said yes to fix her problems, I taught her that I would always say yes. That there would never be consequences. That my boundaries didn't matter. Why did you decide to cooperate with the FBI? Because protecting myself isn't the same as betraying my daughter. She betrayed herself. And if I'd stayed silent, I'd have been telling her that stealing is acceptable as long as you steal from someone who loves you. That's not love. That's enabling. The defense attorney tried to paint me as vengeful, as someone angry about not being prioritized. But the evidence spoke louder than his insinuations. The jury took 4 hours to deliberate. Guilty on all counts. Derek received 12 years in federal prison for healthcare fraud, identity theft, and conspiracy. Sarah received 8 years. The judge's words echoed through the courtroom. You didn't just steal money. You stole your mother's identity, her livelihood, her peace of mind. You weaponized her love against her. There is no greater betrayal. Sarah finally looked at me as the marshals led her away. Not with anger, with something worse. Confusion. Like she genuinely didn't understand how we'd gotten here. After the verdict, James drove me home in silence. As we pulled up to the house, he finally spoke. Dad would have been proud of you. I shook my head. Your father spent years trying to tell me I was too soft with Sarah. I didn't listen. He left you something. James reached into his briefcase, pulling out an envelope. The attorney gave it to me after the will was settled. Instructions to only give it to you if Sarah ever tried to take the house. Inside was a letter in Robert's handwriting, dated 3 months before he died. My darling Maggie, if you're reading this, Sarah's done something I prayed she wouldn't. I've watched her for years, the way she looks at this house, at our savings, the way she's kept Derek around despite knowing he's bad news. I've changed the house deed. It's in an irrevocable trust. She can't touch it, even if she tries. I know you'd have given her everything if I hadn't protected you from your own generous heart. You are worth more than what you can give. Remember that. All my love, Robert. I pressed the letter to my chest and cried, mourning the man who'd loved me enough to protect me even from beyond the grave. A year after the trial, I did something I'd been thinking about since the verdict. I contacted a nonprofit attorney and set up the Harper Foundation for Healthcare Fraud Victims. We helped people mostly elderly, mostly former healthcare workers who'd had their credentials stolen from Medicare fraud schemes. James ran the legal side. I ran the support groups. Every Tuesday evening, my living room filled with people who'd been betrayed by family members, business partners, even their own adult children. We shared stories. We cried. We learned together how to rebuild trust, set boundaries, and understand that choosing ourselves wasn't selfish. It was survival. One afternoon in late spring, almost 2 years after the arrest, a young man knocked on my door. Early 20s, nervous, carrying a backpack. "Mrs. Harper? I'm Tyler, Sarah's son. Your grandson." I'd seen him twice since he'd turned 18. Sarah had always controlled access to him, wielded him like a weapon. "If you don't help us, you won't see Tyler. I know who you are." I kept my voice neutral. "I'm sorry." The words tumbled out. "I'm so sorry for what Mom and Derek did. I didn't know until the trial. She told me you'd had some kind of breakdown, that you were being vindictive. But I looked at the evidence. I read the transcripts. And He stopped, voice breaking. "I should have asked you. I should have questioned her version." I studied his face, Robert's eyes, my mother's chin, Sarah's nose. "Would you like some tea?" We sat on the porch, watching the lake. Tyler told me about community college, about working 2 jobs to avoid using his mother's tainted money, about visiting Sarah in prison once and leaving feeling sick. "She still doesn't think she did anything wrong," he said quietly. "She says you overreacted. That families should protect each other." "Families should protect each other," I agreed. "But protection goes both ways. Your mother forgot that. Would you ever forgive her?" I thought about that. Forgiveness isn't something you give once and it's done. It's something you practice every day. Some days I manage it. Some days I'm still angry. But forgiveness doesn't mean I have to let her back into my life. It means I'm choosing not to let her actions poison my future. Tyler visited every month after that. We built something careful and real, a relationship not based on what I could give him, but on who we were to each other. 3 years after the trial, on a summer morning when the lake was so calm it looked like glass, I stood at the Harper Foundation's first annual fundraiser. 50 people filled folding chairs on my lawn. Survivors, advocates, lawyers, healthcare workers. James introduced me, his voice warm with pride. I stepped to the microphone and looked out at faces that understood what it meant to be betrayed by someone you loved. "My name is Margaret Harper. 5 years ago, my daughter and son-in-law tried to steal my identity, my savings, and my future. They thought that because I loved them, I wouldn't fight back. They thought that because I'd always said yes, I'd never learned to say no." I paused, watching a heron land on my dock. They were wrong. Applause rippled through the crowd. What they took was temporary. Money can be replaced. Houses are just wood and stone. But what they couldn't take, what no one can take unless you let them, is your dignity. Your right to exist as more than what you can provide for others. Your right to protect yourself, even from people you love. I told them about the warning signs I'd missed, the gradual escalation of demands, the guilt trips, the way love had been weaponized into obligation. "If you take nothing else from today, take this. You are not responsible for other people's choices. You are not required to set yourself on fire to keep someone else warm. And saying no to people who hurt you isn't cruelty. It's self-preservation." After the speeches, after the donations, and the networking and the promises of support, I walked down to the water alone. The sun was setting behind the mountains, painting the lake gold and rose. I pulled out my phone and opened it to a message I'd received that morning, from Sarah. Her first contact since sentencing. "Mom, I have a lot of time to think here. I'm sorry. I know I can't fix what I broke, but I'm trying to understand it. My therapist says I was treating you like an extension of myself, not a separate person. I don't know if you'll ever read this. I hope you're okay." I read it twice, 3 times. Then I typed a reply. I read it. "I hope you're learning to see people as people, not as resources. That's the only inheritance worth passing on." I pressed send and slipped the phone back in my pocket. The wind moved through the pines, carrying the scent of honeysuckle and lake water. Somewhere across the water, a loon called, its cry echoing off the mountains. I'd lost a daughter to her own choices. But I'd found myself again, and I'd built something that would help hundreds of others do the same. The house, my house, stood solid behind me. The foundation Robert and I had built together, protected by his foresight and held steady by my refusal to let anyone take it. I'd spent 43 years learning to say yes. It had taken one terrible morning to learn the power of no, but it had taken 5 years to understand that sometimes the most loving thing you can do is refuse to be destroyed by someone else's bad decisions. The sky darkened to indigo, stars beginning to emerge. I sat on the dock, feet dangling over the water, and whispered to the lake and the mountains and the vast Tennessee sky. I am enough, not because of what I give, but because I exist. That is the only inheritance that matters. The water carried my words away, and I finally, truly, let them go.